Welcome to this episode of The Fast Lane. In this episode, we sit down with Chris Korfis and Dan Fichter and discuss what you all came for. You knew it was coming. To squat or not to squat for athletic development. Note the wording there, very intentional. Don't forget to go back and listen to our previous episodes, take notes, and send us questions. We love the questions. We'll dig into some of them here in a minute. But first, Dan, I sent you on social media. Not sure if you got it. I know you're a UFC fan. So it was Bas Rutten describing training with John Jones, and Bas was basically telling him to use an auditory response, ta 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 ta, during his focus mitts session. And then later on in the video, how at John's gym down in Arizona, I believe, or New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Yeah, they were using auditory over the speakers to kind of work on hand speed or whatever else.
Right.
You've spoken about that before. Just kind of give us an idea of how you first came about hearing it and how you implement it. I know this summer you were using, I think it was called like Here's My Shot or something app to beep, beep. Just give us some ideas there.
Yeah, that's relatively new stuff, but people have been doing it for years. I mean, just from John Jones having done it, I'm sure someone was doing it before that. But the reality of the situation in neurology, the auditory signals are extremely important for us to move, whether it's moving our eyes, our neck, whatever it is, our core. Being able to hear something and respond to it and move and generate rhythms to that, it's finding different ways to move cleaner. That's what it is.
And so now, Chris, you have talked about limb velocity performing leg swings. You have an article on Simply Faster, chasing white whales. You're talking about Moby Dick and Ahab and all that. You use a metronome to perform leg swings, yes?
Yeah, we have.
Okay. So,
and that's just because the body always wants to match a rhythm. And so if you kind of push the rhythm, you give the body, you're using an old neural pattern to try to stay with the rhythm, because nobody wants to be the crazy guy who's kind of off one beat at the concert. We all know that guy. It was probably Dan back in the day when he saw ABBA back in '78.
Yeah, I was in that band.
You're singing backup and playing a little bass, weren't you?
I told you when I was 12.
You're killing it. Killing it. Anyway, so it's just a way to kind of tap into that, old desire to be with everything.
I saw that video, did some thinking just based off of what I've heard both of you speak on. Question here, Chris, on our 1080 sprint clouds, it will give us a hertz, right? So at the 20-meter mark, you're moving your right limb at 4 hertz, right? We're just going to say that. So I Google it. 4 hertz is equal to 240 beats per minute. Are you using metronomes based off of the hertz readings you're getting off of the 1080 by any chance?
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to get them. I'm going to find where they're at and push them a little bit, because swinging your whole limb is a lot slower than having a cycle, because you're actually folding up your shank, and there's a lot less
makes sense
requirement from your nervous system and your muscular system to pull that leg through. But I'm going to use that longer limb just for added weight. Now I've actually started rotating my feet in and out, which I'm going to talk about at TFC on December 5th and 6th, or whatever that is.
Attaboy.
Well done.
Rotations. I dropped that one right in there. Thank you very much.
That was great.
You're no rookie.
Yeah.
I'm no rookie.
Exactly. After
just
a couple
in
of
most
years.
things.
Yeah, you got it now. So as I say that to you, does it make your gears start to turn of like, oh, maybe I could do this and this, or should I just stop pursuing that rabbit hole?
I want to get to the squat one or answer the rest of the questions.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we could do that. We could definitely do that. So we have tripled our fan questions writing in here. So thank you guys so much. All right. So this one is coming from Instagram from John. I'm going to say Beal at John_BEYLE. And he just kind of wants to know about in the track field, speed, power athletes, your guys' thoughts on tempo training, aerobic development, if you use any methods. He'd love to know your thoughts there.
Chris?
So in my track team, they do a pretty substantial dynamic warm-up where they've built in all kinds of drills and different movements and things like that goes on from 20 to 30 minutes. And, they vary that, and that kind of becomes our aerobic base. If it were just me, I would do, actually, it works really well because we put in a lot of different movement patterns and neural patterns, and they do square one, they do all kinds of different things. So they basically put an aerobic, added some skips and bounds and things like that to Dan's warm-up that they stole from Dan. And Rob Assisi and Nate Beebe have done a great job implementing, RPR, square one, all the different posturology things that they've learned and put it into this long, anywhere from 20 to 30 minute warm up, which we do most of indoor. And that kind of serves as a good, strong aerobic base because kids, the first time, and they develop it over time, they're out of gas. And by the end, everyone's good. With our 400-meter runners, we kind of do some longer stuff. We do some, what's the guy's name from Texas? The 400, Clyde Hart stuff for our 400-meter runners.
Okay. Any thoughts there, Dan, or does that feel good?
Isometrics.
All right. Up next, we have Brad. I apologize if I'm saying your last name wrong. I've met you a million times. Fortney, right? Common TFC attendee. So off of X here, Coach Fortney is kind of asking like, hey guys, what have you done, got away from, and kind of brought back? Any full circle moments with either some sort of training modality or exercises in particular? And maybe after today, you're going to say you're both 1 rep max back squatting. Who knows?
I'm 1 set of 1. I've went back to 1 set of 1. And I've stayed with 1 set of 1 for quite some time. I'm done in 12 minutes with my entire workout. I always seem to get away from line hops. And then when I go back and do it, I'm like, why did I go away from doing this? With the 1080 Quantum, you can do some really good, crank up the volumes. Hop up, it's not so heavy, but when you come down, it brings you down hard. I've went to doing that. And then I've went away from and come back to the old-fashioned DB Hammer box jumps, which you get a box of varying sizes, but something pretty small, and jump on and off the box on one leg for time. Dan and I have a video of a box that was way too high for the video when we shot it. But the girl we had do it somehow still accomplished it, which was really kind of funny. But yeah, we called them RFI box jumps, is what DB Hammer called them. And I thought that's a great exercise that I have come back to in the last couple of years. In fact, once again, at TFC, I'll be talking about that and what bucket for runners that will be in.
Awesome. In Elmhurst, Illinois. 10 minutes
Elmhurst,
from
Illinois, at
10 minutes from
Elmhurst
O'Hare.
University.
Yes.
Home of the Blue Hawk Jays.
All right.
Yeah.
How about you, Dan? Any full circle moments with methodologies or exercises?
Yeah, for me, it's always connecting dots and trying to go back to old workouts and see where I can add neurology to that. Like the other day, we were doing just simple 1 foot hops for tendon stiffness, and we're adding our visual system to that. So, because what we've learned through neurology is that you move first with your eyes. And if you start to link your eyes with your movement and the stiffness of your tendons, you are now going to become a more efficient mover. So it's not so much it's connecting dots, and then it's seeing where it all fits in to all those parameters that have been laid out over a lot of years. I mean, we've talked about isometrics. We talk about tendon stiffness. We talk about, and we're going to talk about in a minute, whether to squat or not to squat. I think the question should be, can you make your brain feel safe doing whatever you're doing? And if that's your answer and you're safe, you're going to get better.
All right. More from Brad here. Go as deep or as surface level as you want here. In a perfect world, how many days? Perfect world, how many days a week are you training your high school athletes if you are with them year round? How many days a week, high school athletes, if you're with them year round?
5 and 14 days.
Okay. Took me a second there. So across 14 days, you're going to train them 5 times.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then.
In a perfect world.
Yeah. Perfect world. Okay.
I'm 3 days a week.
With off days in between there, of course, running the high low, the classic Charlie Francis.
No, it's whatever I have built in for the week. Meaning, if we're training Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then those are the 3 days. If I'm training Monday, Wednesday, Friday, those are the 3 days. So I think, if you heard Chris and I speak before, we're not big periodization guys. We're not. It's based off of what I'm going to do now in this workout. When's my next workout coming, and how can I prepare for that through this one?
Awesome. All right. Sasha Diggs, who attended our Revolutions in Speed 2 clinic down in Charleston, South Carolina. Some of these questions I'm going to try to cook into our discussion today, but he wanted to know, Chris, this isn't a like dig at you. It's more of a, hey, I want to know so I could better myself. When you are giving and listing out all of your research and I got this and from here, this from here, do you have any tips for people, or is there a particular website? Are you just going through the bowels of some library at Sprinz? So you say, hey, the bicep fem loves speed, semitendinosis loves strength. Are you typing that into a search engine? Help Sasha out there.
I'm kind of the old fashioned, you just start plowing through stuff. I wish there was a better way. One, I don't even know if it's AI, but it connects papers for you. So you could put in the title of the paper that you read. If it's connected something, I'd have to click on, shit, I haven't even saved it, but it connects all the papers for you. So you could put in, how many push-ups can I do if I don't have any arms? And then it will come up. It will come up, it will have
Zero.
all the papers that are connected to it. And then it actually builds you a web, a diagram, like which portion of the paper, and you just click on the little dots and it tells you what the paper is. That was one thing that I used, but I'm kind of, you go in, you read a paper, you read the references, and then you start going through the references. So it's kind of, for me, old school, like I did back in the 80s in college before there were computers, and you actually had to do your research and go look through journals. Today, all the journals are online, which is very helpful, but I'm old school.
I print it out.
I print it out too. I print it out and I write all over it.
Yep. Highlight it. Yeah.
But I'm old school. I heard there's AI software that does all that for you, but I don't learn anything if someone does the thinking for me. I have to think through the process as to why do I want this paper? What am I looking for here? Instead of having AI spit out, look at these 4 things, and here's what this researcher said. A lot of times I get things out of parts of the paper that AI may not grab. It's kind of like the people who do Cliff's Notes of a book and then they get the basic idea, but they lose the essence of what it's all about.
Anything to add there, Dan? Or are you just like, same thing, I'm on a search engine and I'm trying to find it?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it too. But the thing with AI is you still got to ask it the right questions. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think as we start to develop our mindset for thinking, you have to come up with good questions. And then you got to know why the question is the question to find out what a good answer is. I mean, so yes, it'll take you to all these different places, AI, and get you good stuff, but you got to know the right questions to ask it, I think.
We have 2 more, and the second one may kind of bleed us into our discussion for today of to squat or not. So we could choose to answer that one if we want. I do have a lot of people from our first Q&A just saying, hey, thank you so much for answering those. So you're doing the Lord's work here, boys. We kind of briefly touched on there, Chris and Dan, kind of just your general warm-ups, right? So you both started out, we've gone over your history of we were, let's just call it old school meatheadish type. We were static stretching, we were squatting, and now we've kind of evolved more into, hey, we're going to move. We'll use some neurofascial techniques to get ready. So kind of the question there is, why have you evolved your pre-practice, your pre-game into what it is now? Why are you not lining people up and statically stretching? Why are you not going through the classic kind of, all right, get in a line and touch your toes and things like that?
Chris, or you want me to go first?
You go.
My thing is my warm up has become my workout. It's that simple. Like everybody's like, well, what's your workout? I'm like, if you go through our warm up, that's our recovery. That's our warm up. That's our 3/4 of our training. And then we start, we're doing 1 or 2 exercises and you're done. Because I think, and we do it across the board in every sport. So every kid that comes in through Irondequoit High School where I teach knows the exact warm up that we do, a weight room style and an out on the field style. And when they come in to train, it's not too different than that. So they're not asking a million questions. They know what's going on. So I don't know. I just think there's more value in a solid warm up that addresses your neurology, your primitive reflexes, and your ability to move to a rhythm than anything else.
Anything you want to add, Chris, or do you feel good there?
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines. For the traditional stuff, I never saw us get better. We did warm up X. Did we get better because of it? Do I see that when they're out playing? What the drills I'm trying to do there? Are we getting hurt less? All the different things that you try to do with your warming, your static stretching or whatever your dynamic warm up is. I wasn't getting any bang for my buck. And to do it just out of tradition, I feel like I'm paying for some website that I belong to that I never look at, yet they're hitting me for $20 a month. There's no bang for my buck, and I only have so much time, and they only have so much energy, so I'm going to cut it back to stuff that I know accomplishes my goal, whatever that goal may be for whatever team I have.
Next, last question here, and the rest of them will kind of bleed in for today. Zach Jungles from IHT Human Performance down Charleston, South Carolina. You boys may remember that trip. On Instagram at jungles_SP.
Honey, this is a Waffle House.
Yeah. No, we don't serve pancakes here. This is a Waffle House. The motivator was behind.
Yes, my favorite dude ever at any conference.
Good job, Flo.
Flo is my favorite.
Yeah, the motivator helped her out with that answer. That was in the pregame speech. Okay, so let's set up a scenario. You're both assessing an athlete, right? Football player comes in, he's going to sprint on the 1080. Dan, let's go from the neurological side, and then Chris on the what is your initial thought of what's the next drills, what's the next exercises? They sprint on the 1080, just a regular linear sprint, and you're noticing some force or just gait asymmetries. So one leg is producing more force, or there's limb length discrepancy as they're sprinting there. Could you help connect some of the dots of where does your mind go to first, Chris, and then from a neurological side, Dan, where does your mind go through, and kind of what's the process of how you would deal with that?
I'd probably film it and see what's going on. The graph tells you one thing, but I want to see it and slow it down. And then you can muscle test them. You can, look to see what shin angles are, what's going on at the ankle or the foot or the hip or the opposite arm. I need to see it live and in person, and then slow it down and, ask, you can ask them the questions about, do you feel something at that third step? Do you feel like you're stepping back or stepping down? Or ask them if they feel what you see on the film and if there's a reason why they're consciously doing it. Or some people, not some, but most people, kids these days, they watch something on YouTube and they try to emulate it when they run. It's like, I saw it on YouTube and I'm trying to do this. And it's like, well, that guy runs 9.8. You run 11 flat. You just can't do it because you saw it.
Was it David Montgomery who was running next to his car and looking at his reflection? Yeah. It's good to ask. Otherwise, I got to do all these neurological, no, he's just
looking to see what he looked like.
Yeah. So how about you, Dan, from a neurological lens or perspective?
Yeah, from the time you get out of your car and you walk into the gym or you walk into wherever you are, I'm evaluating you. Like when we were in South Carolina and Chris and I were talking, that dude came in and he started moving around, and in about 15 seconds, we had the same things that we were talking about. Mine through a neural lens, his through a biomechanical lens / neural lens, and it was the same stuff. Now, I'm not saying we're going to train him the exact same way, but we're seeing those deficiencies or things that can be improved. And you're talking about a guy who's sub 10. So, the gait pattern is huge for me. How you walk and how you crawl is a big deal to how you ultimately run fast, right? So I'm going to take a look at your eyes. I mean, the first thing Chris said, we're talking about, can he catch the football, right? And do you wear glasses? And what's his visual fields like? So We're just trying to find different threats that prevent him from, being better than he already is.
Well, the rest of the questions will kind of cook into our discussion today. Chris and Dan, thank you for answering all those. Please continue to send them in if you're listening. Lets us know you are listening and gives us kind of a general guide
It's nice.
with where we're
It's
going.
nice.
Yeah, hey, we tripled our output. I can only
Kind of
imagine.
makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside.
That's exactly right. Dress from your apparel there. It's probably getting cold up in Rochester already here in October, so you need some warm and fuzzies. All right, so today we are talking about to squat or not for improving athletic performance. I think the best place to start, Chris, you wanted to cover this topic when we were kind of throwing around ideas, so I'll put you on the spot here of, did you make any recent discoveries or have any conversations led to wanting to talk about this? And if not, tell your 1982 7th grade trip to University of Illinois 500-pound squat 4-4-40 story, just for catching some people up.
Sure. So nothing, I have not had an epiphany on the squat.
Okay. All right.
So I used to love to squat. So I started off, as a little kid, my goal is to play college football, pro football. In middle school, you have no clue, but you just think that and you work really hard. So I went to a football camp down at the University of Illinois, which is one of the first Big Ten schools to have a strength coach. That's the Mike White era. And this guy got up and said, our fastest guy on the team is this guy named Mitchell Brookins. He runs a 4-4-40. And because he can squat 500 pounds, he runs a 4-4-40. Now, that's not actually what he said, but that's what I heard. He was a 4-4 guy who could also squat 500 pounds. And I made the connection. So my next, I don't know, however many years of my life I spent trying to squat 500 pounds, because then I thought that would equate to a 4-4-40. Now, it didn't work. I still ran pretty fast. I'm not as fast as Dan, but I kind of had that mindset when I started to coach. Everyone squatted. When I was a GA at Northern Illinois, we all squatted. We did Husker Power. We rewarded huge squats. That was kind of like what was important. They didn't put any sprint times up because it was strength. It was weight training. It was what you did. So as I progressed, went to Louis Simmons, I learned how we had boxes, we had chains, we had safety squat bars, belt squats. We did everything, and I wasn't moving the bar. We had big squat numbers. We did all the things just like we were supposed to, but the bar was where we were getting was pretty low. And that's when I started to say, maybe the squat isn't a thing. So then I had to backpedal because I loved squatting. I loved to squat. I loved it as an exercise. It was a great coaching tool. You can yell and scream. You could motivate people, put numbers up, big numbers up, and all that. And I realized there's other ways to do it. And that's why I kind of went away from it. So when message boards started, I said, I don't squat my athletes. And we were doing really well. And people lost their minds. Some guy threatened to come over and break my pencil neck. I won't say who it is, but he's about 5'2". I'm 6'1". I have a pack of dogs that would not take kindly to someone trying to break my pencil neck. And then all of a sudden I was the guy that doesn't squat because I wrote an article for Simply Faster about squatting and why I didn't think it was great. And my reasons for not thinking it was great was, once you put a bar on the back, it changes the shape of your cervical and thoracic and lumbar spine. And the recruitment pattern isn't the same as when you come out of the blocks. Also, the recruitment pattern is I'm pushing up against a bar rather than pushing my body out. So that's what I talked about, was the fact that it wasn't the same as coming out of the blocks. Now, since that time, 12 years on a 1080, recording thousands of runs, maybe tens of thousands of runs, the number of kids that show up at my place and say, I'm a 500-pound squatter, 400-pound squatter, all this, and you put them on the 1080, they don't produce shit for horizontal force. They don't produce shit for P-max, and they don't get out fast. Now, there may be kids that were already fast and knew where to line up their body to use that strength, but those were the kids that usually didn't come here because they were already fast. So my question was, are you a fast kid that just happened to squat and gain strength, or did you squat a lot of weight and all of a sudden you got fast? And I think we look at, like, especially today on YouTube, where you have all these elite sprinters showing their weight room workout, do they run 9.8 because they squatted, or does their strength coach have them squat while they already ran 9.8? So for me, again, I'm looking for most bang for my buck. What's the way I can least undo my athletes for what I'm trying to get to, which is to run faster. And for me, the squat just wasn't a thing. I mean, it was an easy one. As much as I loved it, invested in it, and bought all kinds of equipment, it was just an easy one that, okay, we got rid of the squat. We switched things. Oh my God, we're running faster now. We're getting the results that the measured results that I actually wanted to see the results in. Like if I squat 500 pounds in the 100-meter dash, I don't run 98 because I've got the t-shirt that says I squatted 500. Everyone's running the same. So for me, it's what's the best way to get my kids, my athletes down the line? And for me, and I'm not saying squat's a bad exercise. It's a great powerlifting exercise. It's a great general developer of strength. And for our beginner kids, they squat just because they aren't strong. But for my kids that are running the state meet, we don't squat at all.
All right. We are going to follow up on that big time. I have about a half-page notes there. Dan, I want to flip to you now with your world-famous posture and position article. Mm-hmm. So as Chris is kind of saying those things every now and then, I don't know if you're falling asleep, but you're nodding your head a little. So with with posture and position, can you just give some ideas there of the negative consequences that could arise from that? So some sound bites from your article: standing properly to maintain your spinal curves. Correct posture helps the body let go of huge amounts of energy. Can you hold this with an eccentric movement, an isometric? Now with heavy loads or top speed, so is squatting variable based off of ability to hold posture and position? Kind of just give general thoughts there and hit on a soundbite or two.
Yeah. So again, I've come full circle on this. I started in the same way Chris did with chasing big squat numbers. And I actually thought in my playing career that I had to be able to squat a certain amount of weight to run a certain speed.
Yeah.
Me too. And I kind of knew when I was going to run a 4.240, I had to be a certain weight and have to be able to squat. And mine was, if I could squat 315 20 times for 3 sets, I knew I was strong enough to run what I needed to run. Now, I don't know if that's really true because that's data that I collected based off my own training, and that's one person. So I don't know if that has any correlation. But as I delved into this a little bit more, the squat, and I'll call it a sit to stand, is a natural pattern in neurology. Sit to stand and your gait pattern are two fundamental qualities that we have to have. Now, do I believe you have to squat heavy weight? I don't really think squatting is just a test of strength. I think it's more of a vestibular episode wrapped in muscle. I mean, you're changing levels. You are honing your eyes. Your feet are coming in contact with the ground. Your feet are your accelerometer, right? So, I mean, there's so many different ways to look at squatting as being negative, and I get it. But what happens if you're splitting your feet? What happens if your torso is in the correct position for acceleration? Like I remember we were talking years ago about Chris with the shin angles and the torso angles matching. Those things are important when it comes to being able to run fast and being explosive.
And see, I think I can do a better job matching those angles on one leg rather than two.
Yeah, and there you go. And so just what he's saying is it's how you get there. You're not hung on the squat. It's just an exercise that you go up and down. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, there's more merit in an isometric squat at the bottom than there is in a full up and down squat because it's going to accelerate your compensation pattern. So yeah, there's so much to it in terms of your neurology that just splitting your feet alone. And I've told this to people before, just split your feet a little bit. You don't even realize it. Just split it. No, you can't do that.
You can't do that. You're going to blow your back out. Well, then you got too much weight.
Right. I mean, are you kidding me? You have to be able to move. So why would you do something that would limit your movement, right? So then there's bilateral movements. And I saw it firsthand with Louis Simmons. He completely destroyed his neurological system by doing bilateral movements his entire life. But he should. That's what he does.
That was his job. That was
Right.
his sport.
So I think don't ask if the athlete should squat or not. I think you ask, does the brain know how to squat? And does the brain perceive that it's safe? If it does, and there's no negative consequences, have at it. Something tells me the more people squat, the more negative consequences come out of it. So, I mean,
because you're really standing up to save your life at that point.
No, it's a good. I've certainly relied on other people to save my life. I've had some brown liquid save my life just out of a, whoa, I better get up. Otherwise, more's coming out.
And
Anyway,
believe me, I wish it were as simple as to go squat to run faster, because then I would have saved thousands of hours, tens of thousands of dollars. I know how to coach squatting. I know how to get big numbers in a squat. That would have made my life so much easier.
so Dan, you answered this question, but you use a squat pattern, an isometric squat during your, I'm just going to call it isometric warm up. Hey, we're going to hold this position, this position, this position, and a body weight isometric squat in the bottom is part of that.
mm-hmm.
And then you were talking about the negative consequences. I've seen at a conference before, you have athletes perform a twist test and then perform a bilateral exercise, repeat the twist test, and they will have less range of motion or they'll have the same range of motion. Can you just talk a little bit about that for people so they could start to know these are some negative consequences?
Yeah, it's just a perceived threat to your gait pattern. That's all it is. And it's not something that sticks with you, but it's something that if you continue to feed that pattern without addressing it, then you're going to end up like most of the big squatters in the powerlifting world. You're not going to be able to move or jump. And that's another big part of it is, people were trying to equate it to a big vertical jump because you'd have all those powerlifters being able to jump 40 inches in the air. And I don't think any of them can, to be honest with you.
Well, they'll jump onto a tall box, which is really just how well you can get your feet up on top of the box in front of you and pull yourself up.
Yeah.
And something to remember for everyone is there are freaks. You could easily pinpoint, oh, well, what about this guy? He could dunk a basketball.
And that's the problem is we're chasing a Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson stereotype that, well, he did it, so this is what we're going to build you into. And so, well, no, it doesn't work that way. I remember it when I was GAing at Northern Illinois. They brought in a guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he played in the NFL. He's running back, great running back, came in, never lifted weights before, was from a junior college. And first day in the weight room, I'm going to bring him in and we're going to put weight on the bar and he's going to squat because that's what we did. And that's what we do. He put 405 on there and moved it like it was nothing. And he'd never squatted before in his life. He just was that guy. Like David Montgomery comes in and we're going to do a single leg squat on my deadlift machine. He picked up 400 pounds on that thing like it was 20. He goes, I've never done this lift before, but he just snatched it right up. That's genetic. He was going to be that no matter what.
And we have a lot of coaches that try to copy and paste cookie cutter. Well, if they could do that, then if I start my freshman high school athlete off with that, they will turn into that. So let's just flat out get it out here early, both of your viewpoints. Does the traditional back squat 5x5 program or pushing a 1 rep max have a place in your program? Let's just say from an 8th grader up until a senior in college, right? Are there any places within that huge range? I know. Is there a place for a traditional 5x5 back squat pushing a 1 rep max program?
For what kind of athlete?
Let's say your classic football, basketball, track. And then for the women, let's say they're playing field hockey in the fall there.
For field hockey?
Yeah, I don't know. She plays rugby, a women's rugby player. There you go.
So are they going to do everything I say? Because what happens is this, when I say, okay, we're not going to squat, they're going to go home and their dad or their parents going to tell me, got to squat, that's what I did, or they're going to see it on YouTube. And they're going to go squat somewhere else. Or they'll say, well, you're not doing this because you're not squatting. But if I have complete control and they are not a big offensive lineman or defensive lineman, no. I can do a better job doing other things. Maybe as an 8th grader or 9th grader, just to learn the movement pattern, but I'm not going to weight them down. So you've got this little skinny kid with their head all over their place and their shoulders are all jacked up. And when they bend down, their spine is like a question mark. I'm not going to do that. And someone might say, well, you're teaching their erector column to stand up tall. They're fighting it with their erector. No, there's better ways to do that too.
For me, this is interesting because over the last 10 years at the high school that I coach football at, we have done very little up and down squatting heavy. However, we have done some isometric stuff with our feet split. We've done oscillating stuff in a stretched position. We've done reactive squats. We've done it, but we haven't done it. Now, here's the catch, and Chris mentioned this. He said, because kids are going to go squat anyway. 100% of my linemen will sneak to the gym and go squat, right? The crazy part is they all get stronger. They're like, I can't believe my squat's going up and I haven't even squatted. But they are squatted. They're doing different things. They're being able to move better. And if you move better, you're going to lift more weights in the right position. I trick the hell out of them. We don't squat. Uh-oh. Whose dogs are those? They're not mine. They're not mine.
Yeah, I'm not at
Come
home.
on.
So I trick them. I know they're going to go squat. So when their numbers start going up, I'm like, this is why your numbers are going up. Not because you're squatting one day a week at the gym. You're getting stronger in that squat pattern because I've done every methodology around squatting that we can do. That's not just up and down, slow movement, load your spine till you.
Yeah, I've got the same things.
Yeah.
You can step into the weight room and you do these things. You step in and you can move a lot of weight. I had a kid, John Fox, who was a sprinter a long time ago for me at York, who has passed, unfortunately.
What?
Yeah. He had a rare blood disease that he woke up one day, didn't feel well, and went to the emergency room, and he was dead before dinner. Yeah. So trained with me. We did lots of isometrics, split squat isometrics, and the football coach was talking crap to him. Oh, you'd be faster if you came and lifted weights with me and did this. And John said to him, well, put some weight on a bar then. Let's see. And he goes, well, we'll do deadlift. And John's like, all right, let's do deadlift. And John deadlifted 405. It was no problem. Out deadlifted his entire football team. It doesn't matter. My body can line up properly and I can apply force properly in the right direction that I need it to go, and I can lift a lot of weight just because I know how to line my body up. I've gotten strong in lining my body up.
Have you guys heard Cal, or maybe he stole it from you, Cal speak on, he's not going to listen to this.
No, he won't. You're exactly right.
Listen to him speak on the idea of like squatting or deadlifting or handling heavy weight is a skill. And so you work your back squat up to 500 pounds. You take it away for a month. It's not that you maybe got weaker. Your force output horizontally maybe hasn't gone down, but just the skill of squatting that heavy weight has gone down.
Yeah, there's a ton of technique in lifting heavy weight. So yeah, maybe you'll miss out on that, but yeah, there's a ton of technique and skill in lifting a heavy weight.
Okay. You guys have said some good things here, but I'll just have to hit this topic. If you're dealing with, I know football is such a dominant sport, but if you're dealing with O linemen, D linemen, is there a need for those heavy bilateral exercises? Or in an ideal world, can you get away with it, right? If you were training hockey players who they're literally fighting, but battle up against the boards, like pushing another human up against a piece of glass, is there a need for those heavy bilateral exercises?
We bench press heavy. And like I said, we'll do oscillating isometric squatting. And the most they ever have on their back is this really, really strong kids do 135 pounds. That's it. And they get stronger throughout the year. Our stuff from our isometrics, we get stronger all the time through the season.
You know, I guess I'm going to say this. It all depends on what your goal is. If you have a clear, defined goal, squatting can be something for you. Like, do you want to have 7 500-pound squatters on your team as a strength coach? You know, so you can say, hey, look how strong we got. Strength, I've realized, is not a goal for me. Speed is my goal.
That's well said.
So I think you have to be clear in what your goals are. And I think on a bigger picture, if you're clear what your goal is and you share that goal with your athlete, you have a much better chance of accomplishing whatever that goal is by having a pathway. But to have people squat just because it's easier to manage 50 kids in a weight room, and that's your goal, can I build team concept by having us all do the same thing? Then it might be appropriate. And I know big time college programs that do that.
I do like to let the kids see how strong they are every once in a while, just to go, listen, what we're doing is going to make you strong. And they love it, right? They want to know how strong they are and how they bench it. It happens in everybody you train. They all want to see those numbers because it's the only numbers they understand.
Yeah.
Right? Squat and bench. They understand those numbers. So if those numbers are getting better and I can do it without doing those things, I love it. It's great.
And plus, it's something, a self-motivator, like, I can squat this. You get some confidence from that. My son's all pumped because he can do 225 for 10 on the bench press. And it's like, it doesn't do anything for your sport. Yeah, but I can do 225 for 10. I never thought I'd be able to do it. You told me I could never do it. You said I had noodle arms. I said, you still have noodle arms.
It's the reverse psychology there.
Yeah.
I'll have to use that in a couple of years as my son comes of age. So let's take a sport such as baseball. Right. So when we were in Revolutions 2, we had the LSU baseball guy there. Right. And he was saying, like, it is a double-edged sword where mass creates gas or something like that, where, like, yes, the bigger they are, the harder they can hit the ball. But also, yes, the bigger they are, their lateral movement is affected. And they're trying to really zero in and kind of measure that out. So if you're working with a baseball player and it's like, hey, you just need more overall size, you need more overall strength because you can't produce any power. Is there a place and a time, as you were kind of saying there, Chris, where use an exercise such as the squat to build some size and some strength because there is a positive quality that could happen?
I don't know. To me, baseball is rotational and squat's vertical. I mean, if you want to build a big ass, I guess that's great. Yeah, you can get hypertrophy with a squat. It's a full body workout. But to me, again, you asked about baseball. They're into exit velocities now with hitting a ball. And I don't know if there's a correlation between a big squat and an exit velocity. I know there's a correlation between a vertical jump and exit velocity. I don't know about a squat.
I think it's more about the coordination of movement and the coordination of that strength, right? So yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, but
I would be more into coordination than, because when you can line your whole body up, anyone can be pretty strong when everything's lined up properly, which I'll be talking about at TFC in Elmhurst in December.
Awesome. Which building? Which building?
By the way, all three of us, Tony planned this. The three of us are in the same building that we were in last year, and it's just us three in that building all day Saturday.
And he's locking us in.
And he's locking us in.
It'll be us three there and nobody else. The doors will be locked.
We'll have the
So, Chris, you've been dumped into our group, which is the
land of the misfit
not cool
toys.
people.
Yeah,
the land of the misfit
perfect.
toys.
Yeah, I had my office moved as far away from all human interaction as possible here at the ice rink, so I'll be used to it. Yeah, that was a good room. I'm not going to mind. That was perfect.
To show you how isolated is, you're the first adults that I've talked to in the last 72 hours.
Oh boy! All right, you might be a little rusty. December 5th and 6th in Elmhurst, Illinois.
I might
not
be
taught a little bit there.
Seriously,
that'll be something. All right, so there is a place. Just kind of try to be as practical as possible. There is a place in your mind you could use a back squat to develop some general strength. You have to understand there are negative consequences that could come from it. You also have to understand there may be other or better exercises to achieve what you're looking for. Give me your short thoughts on that statement.
I agree completely. So to back that up, or to go backwards from what you said, I think anything single-legged is good, just because you can match up those angles properly. And I don't have to use as much weight, where I can change the shape of your spine. Because what I see kids who've been to weightlifting program 101 and they show up here and they say, well, I did 225 or whatever on the squat, their spine's a mess. They're all over the place. But if I can isometrically get you in a right position and hold that and then challenge that with a variety of different things, I think I can get you to a point where that's going to be more usable.
Chris spoke on this a little bit before. It's having your body in that forward leaned position, right? Because your brainstem and your cerebellum are constantly mapping the center of mass over your base of support, right? So when you're talking about projecting your center of mass and being able to be explosive, like I think the squats or variations of it are more of a balance thing. Like, how can you understand balance and threat of falling and threat of which way you want to go to how you need to handle your base of support, right? So who
So,
gives a
can I cut you off, Dan?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so this is perfect into my next question. You're talking balance. So I want to go right to that one. Sorry to cut you off.
It's okay.
I don't have a time that I heard you say it, but it was kind of along the lines of the back squat does not address posture. And I'm going to read a quote here about the PMRF. So excuse me for it being a little longer. The pontomedullary reticular formation
Well done.
is the powerhouse of your posture, the center for postural control. The PMRF inhibits flexion, right, leaning forward. The PMRF inhibits flexion of the posture system to efficiently resist gravity. Patients who present with dysfunctional output of their PMRF have flexor dominance posture, a common postural presentation of forward head posture, anterior rolling of the shoulders, chest flexion, and hyperkyphosis. The PMRF is in the brainstem among the pons and medulla. Medulla oblongata is the home of 8 cranial nerves that perform vital functions and contribute to proper posture. The reticulospinal tract descends from the PMRF to the spine to inhibit flexor tone. So we're putting a bar on our back. It is negatively going to affect the PMRF. You have that kind of forward, shrugged, head forward posture. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're talking about the squat does not address posture well. It kind of throws off your balance and it affects the PMRF, which I've heard you talk about before.
100%. And what you have to understand is your posture is going to be set by your eyes and your feet, right? Your eyes, your feet, and actually your jaw. So the squat doesn't answer that equation, right? But if you are implementing those sensory inputs and you are weighting or reweighting some of those sensory inputs while you're squatting, now you're challenging the balance apparatus, which is addressing your onboard posture systems. I mean, you have to know what you're doing to make squatting something that's going to really help you in gait. Okay. I just think that we look at it incorrectly. We look at it as the strength move. It's a
The king of
balance
all
thing.
exercises.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, it's just not. It's just not.
Okay.
It's just not.
So to play devil's advocate, there are going to be plenty of people that listen to this and say, well, yeah, Chris and Dan, because you're doing it wrong. You're supposed to perform your squats with VBT. You're supposed to do front squats. You're supposed to perform it to a box. Once you're done squatting, you're supposed to step out of your rack and perform jumps because you're using the squat to
Potentiate.
excite your CNS to potentiate, and then you use your body weight movements to ingrain the proper movement patterns. Have you guys tried that out? What have you found of like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but it doesn't work. Your heavy squats are still going to have negative consequences that are hard to overcome, even with correctives and the most beautifully laid out bastardized front contrast method.
I can say this. I'm not telling you I don't squat at all, but it's put into place to, number one, show the kids that you can still get strong by not performing the actual exercise itself or the full top to bottom exercise. Like I said, we do oscillating isometrics squatting. We do reactive squats. We do one-legged squats. We do a variety of split squat. So to say I don't squat is a lie, but to say that I hang my hat on the squat, no way. No way.
Yeah, I think we've prioritized exercises. Like if you just look at someone's weightlifting card when you show up somewhere, squat is always going to be number one on leg day. And we got to stop doing that. They're just exercises. Exercises are for a purpose for you to reach a goal, whatever that defined goal is, which I think, why we went to just sprinting to get faster. Because it works. It works.
I got a buddy down the road who's a personal trainer. Right. So I stopped into his little studio that he trains. He trains just bodybuilders and fitness competitors and all that. And I walked in there and they were talking about not squatting. And he's like, well, we don't squat anymore. Now, I remember him from back in the day. We used to go in there, squat 600 pounds and throw it around. He goes, listen, I've trained hundreds of bodybuilders. And they would say that the king of the movement is the squat. He's not squatting. And he's producing championship bodybuilders, right? So I think everybody is kind of finally realizing we can build muscle without just squatting. We can fix your neurology without just squatting. We can fix your balance system without just squat. It's not the end all be all. Could you use it? Sure. It's like any other exercise.
Continuing on with that, of the coaches who are going to say like, hey, you're doing it wrong. Why can't you just fix those things with drills and exercises out on the field after the fact? Why can't you just use it to build your strength, build your power, and then why are prime times not going to fix that?
Build what strength? Like,
Yeah,
go
ahead.
You know
go
what
ahead.
I mean?
Go ahead.
I mean, like, because you're going to be strong in a squat, that's somehow going to transfer into a prime time. I think he's got it backwards. Like, I mean, maybe if you saw a deficiency in the prime time that you could bilaterally squat that weakness out, then that would be a thing. But I don't think you want to.
Which I'm going to talk about at TFC Elmhurst 2025.
This is a great plug. Hopefully someone will chop it up for you and you could have multiple segments there.
Again, it's what's the goal? If speed is the goal, there's a lot of other things that you can do that are probably more effective. And how do I know that? Because people show up here who have squatted from a variety of different people who probably know how to coach squat better than I do. The numbers just don't show on the 1080. They don't have great horizontal force development. They don't have great power. They don't have the metrics that.
And that was perfect. So next question was going to be about, we're talking about an exercise that on paper is going to develop everything vertically, but we're moving and our movement is horizontal, lateral, every now and then a vertical, right? For the amount of jumps that any sport might do, there's going to be a lot more forward, backward, side to side movement. So once you got your 1080, Chris, and you started realizing how important horizontal force production is, did that even more so ingrain? Like, man, this exercise everyone's saying is all it. It's not.
It's not. And that's kind of, God, I've had that machine now for almost 10, 12 years, but I didn't see the correlation. I didn't see it on the first step because everyone says triple extension, we're working triple. It's not there. It's not there. Now you can go to Alabama where they probably squat and they have a bunch of 1080 machines and say, well, we got it here, coach. You recruited the best kids in the country. You didn't go find an average speed person that's just an average athlete and say, bring him in here. We're going to develop him to be an NFL first or second round player. So, and that's where we look. We look to see what the NFL and the colleges are doing, and because they should know better, and we want to follow them because when a parent asks, what program are you doing? Oh, we're doing Husker Power. That's what Nebraska does. They won national championships. We can too.
If you want to match like toe off velocities of a vertical jump and say, well, the squat is the same way, that still, it doesn't pass that test. Because like, if you remember in Revolutions, the first time I put up something on the board where your toe off velocity of a vertical jump and your toe off velocity of a squat, I mean, you're slowing down on a squat on the way up.
That's why Louis Simmons put chains on a bar.
Right. And you're still going to slow down.
You're still going to slow down. I think everyone forgets that when lifting weights, the back half of the exercise is actually decelerating the bar.
And that alone, I mean, and then when you land, that's where all the forces are. I don't understand that like that's been forever, that video. You have to know that. That's science.
You guys are pretty solid reading my mind. You must have read my episode guide. We're going to talk about that here in a second of the sequence and pattern, but I want to just really hammer this dead first. The squat is vertical. We're talking movement is horizontal force. All right, Chris, but you're doing it wrong. You're not working on mass specific force. You're not working on relative strength. You're not working on strength to weight ratios. Chasing 1 RMs is okay, but you want the highest strength to weight ratio, the strongest at the lowest body weight, bare powered. Why does that not work?
You mean the bare power deadlift stuff?
Yeah, we'll go there for the mass specific force, or just like the relative strength. The more you squat at a lighter body weight, the faster you are.
Again, the angles are wrong. You're not pushing the right place.
And the coordination is wrong.
Coordination is wrong too.
The coordination is wrong.
Go into that, Dan. So DB Hammer stuff, talking about squatting and jumping. It might be the right sequence, but it's the wrong pattern.
It's the neural inverse. That's what it is. And you want to be able to accelerate at toe off when the squat is teaching you all the ways not to do that. So, I mean, and again, it's how much that descent and how quick you can stretch the muscle to utilize those forces to jump up in the air. I had an argument with the guy from Vertimax where you put the bands on and you jump. I'm like, it's the exact opposite of what's got to happen. What, you're going to strengthen in the air? Great. You're slowing down. How about you can use those bands to drop and then take the bands off?
Yeah,
and
mount
use
the thing
that
on the
energy.
ceiling.
Yeah. It makes no sense. And if you explain it like that, people look at you and go, oh, yeah, but we'll still squat because we'll get a big vertical jump. Jump off a box and land.
I don't know if this is a direct quote from the best sports training book ever. This is my own interpretation here, but I just want to read this sentence. Enhancing your firing patterns to put the neural drive into force generation, which raises velocity at toe off, cannot be trained absent a toe off position. And proficiency of this neuromuscular pattern only develops if it is trained specifically. This explains why a big squatter can't jump very high.
I think that's DB Hammer paraphrase.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So kind of more talking on the forward lean. I want to try to get a little specific here for people. I'm sure they're like, okay, well, then what do I do? So we kind of talked some forward lean exercises this summer. Can you each give 2, and let's say like weight room exercises now on a field? What are 2 weight room exercises that a coach and athlete could do for improving horizontal force or that forward lean to take their forces and make it more specific for movement?
I went to that worked really well. It's kind of like a horizontal squat, kind of. We took the quantum, made it super heavy, and you got in whatever starting position you were at, and you had to learn how to push out hard. And I'll be damned if we didn't move newtons per kilogram up by as much as 1 Newton per kilogram, which again, moving at a half a Newton is a lot.
Yes.
And just by teaching kids how to push on the ground and get body movement, so there was slack in the line, they start movement and they learn to push, and then they hit that resistance. They've got to learn to fight through or push through that resistance. And it was just 1 or 2 steps, usually just 1. But for your average athlete, and for some reason, I have a whole bunch of Division I girls soccer players. And most of my business now is girls soccer right now. Yeah.
There we go. They don't want the
Thank
torn
God
ACL.
for them.
Isn't it funny how it changes like that?
Yeah,
Like,
my whole business is like I have no business on the weekends. My weekdays are swamped. It used to be the opposite. I used to have sprinters and football players, and now I have all girls soccer and some boys soccer.
Yeah. Hey,
Weird.
it's the biggest sport in the world.
Yeah. By doing that, they learned how to push and dramatically increase their first step quickness, because that's what every complaint is. My first step quickness needs to be better. And then you film them and you realize, well, they're pushing that way. And you say, well, if you want to push this heavyweight that way, you've got to learn to roll your shins down and push that way.
So that was your one. I'll need another here, but just for people with a 1080, they could do this
you can very easily hook up to a cable stack and just put it at height level. You can take a rubber band and put it around your waist, but something where you have to learn to push on the ground in the direction that you want to go.
And what are the 1080 settings you like, Chris?
Well, I use
Isokinetic on the
the
Synchro.
Isokinetic, or I use their force, what is it, the FVP or whatever it is, where they tell you how much weight to use. I use about 80% of their max to push, but then I want to drop that weight down, and they've got to keep the same force with less weight, because now I know they're pushing harder on the ground rather than against the belt. My second exercise would be my tried and true Bulgarian split squat on my hammer strength deadlift machine. I can get you perfect angles. I can monitor those angles.
Foot placement.
Foot placement, whether your back foot is in or out, what your front leg is doing. I know when to cut you when you lose that. I can completely control that scenario so you're perfect. And I like starting with endurance. I like going for the 30 seconds or the minute, or I never go longer than 30 seconds, but I like to start there just because there are some oxygen changes that happen when you go for those longer times that I need to have. So when you're later in the game, I'm sure that those muscle tissues are getting the oxygen they need to perform properly.
Thank you. Dan,
You're welcome.
your two.
I have an exercise I love doing with the stick and the bands to put people in position where we're unstable up top to make the lower half motor organized.
Wait, stop. Those are called fictors.
Right.
Forward fictors.
Forward fictors.
Forward fictors.
So I like that.
Which I will be talking about at TFC 2025.
What are the chances?
In the same room.
In the same room.
Yeah. Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon.
So I like to teach the body how to fall a little bit, because I think that we break into all these patterns of threat when we're not comfortable falling. So instead of actually teaching the acceleration pattern, I'm going to teach them how to be safe from falling. And then we can start to work on projecting our center of mass where we want it, right? Because if you notice people, when they accelerate, younger kids, they'll just bend over, run under this. We all the old football coaches, right? So getting kids in those angles, and then understanding shin angles are not just, get in this shin angle and push your knee down. It's also a flexor extension synergy that's going on in your brainstem. So
there's a shit ton of balance in that too.
Sure is. So, I'll go back to what Chris said too about squatting somebody early that's just not strong. If you think about that too, is squatting mirrors early developmental patterns, right? So you're taking care of all the primitive reflexes, the tonic labyrinth reflex, all those things can be handled through just basic squat patterns that don't have to be load the spine. Again, it's more of a balance thing, integrating reflexes for human movement. But if you continue to go on that path and think, I just got to keep loading it to get better at that movement, I think we're missing the boat, because we're not accelerating. We're in the wrong position for that. So my first thing is teaching somebody how to fall. And
You know, what I've done, because Dan and I talked about this quite a bit. We started riffing on each other down in South Carolina.
I'll expand on that at TFC. Can you make that a soundbite?
It's going to be incredible.
Okay.
All of my upper body stuff, if you aren't pressing hard into a bar, if you're doing dumbbell work, you're leaning forward. You're putting your heart over your toes. Just because you're putting pressure on your second and third toe, which is what's actually going to hold you in place. And I want to be really strong in that position and then what happens is your torso, everything picks up in your torso to hold you in place, which is what I want.
Yeah, the cylinder. Yep.
But if you're standing on 2 feet stacked on top of everything where you're normally perfectly balanced, you're really not challenging much athletically. You might be challenging yourself from a muscular standpoint to make my biceps or delts or whatever bigger, but I want that neurologic, that I sense that I can lean forward and be strong and move limbs while I'm leaning forward.
You know what's funny? So my dogs spend a fair amount of time.
Napoleon Dynamite, that's funny.
So when I go out to feed my dogs in the garage, I have a kettlebell out there. And what I've done over the last 6 months is every time I go out there, I'll do 20 upright rows. But when I do upright rows, I focus on being on the ball of my foot and to my outside edge, or rolling into like this.
Yep.
So it instantly contracts everything in my torso and everything.
Yep.
And then I begin to manipulate the weight as I upright row. It becomes way harder, right? Because now you're worried about, am I going to fall? But over the time that I've been doing it for 6 months, and it's old Pavel stuff, greasing the groove. You go out there every day. I feed the dogs. I do 20 reps. And I'm starting to understand being in that. I love what you said, Chris, over your heart. That's perfect.
Just as a side note, Dan is the dog owner that my wife wishes I was. Dan has boundaries and rules for his dogs. Mine do not. Mine don't believe in boundaries.
You'll see one jump over him in a minute.
I got two more big ideas here. So this leads right into it. Chris, you often talk about slack in the system. You got to pull the slack out, and how when you put a bar on your back, you automatically take all that slack out.
Yes.
So you don't get crushed and you don't die. But then when you go to move within a sport, you don't have that external resistance pressing on you to take the slack out. Please briefly just go over muscle slack for some that may not be familiar. And then how do you deal with it, and exercises like the back squat, or front squat or whatever, which take it out, and why that is a negative consequence.
So slack is the muscle that hangs between two joints. Sitting at rest, like I'm sitting here right now, my calves from my ankle to my knee are just hanging there. There's got to be some impetus to organize the muscles to actually create some kind of propulsion or some kind of movement. If I put weight on something as a safety precaution, your body picks up that slack for fear that you're going to get crushed by the weight on your back. There might be no weight at all. So you're actually learning, and this is a Franz Bosch thing. I'm not saying I created this. I learned about this from reading Franz Bosch stuff, and it seemed to make a lot of sense to me. So when you play sport, there's no bar to press on, so you have to learn to organize differently than you would if there's a weight on your back, which is kind of like the idea of like the Lilogen Exogen sleeves or the Amorphorce stuff, that it's actually attached to your body, that you can kind of learn how to deal with slack in a little differently. So things that you can do, and I'm not saying that weightlifting's bad. Trust me, I've got a 1080 Quantum. We do all kinds of stuff. But anytime that you have a pre-jump or a pre-movement to organize the body first, that gets the slack out of the system where it's lined up, and then you push. So like doing a little mini hop into a big hop is a big one. Starting a movement with no pressure on whatever. So you're going to move, and then you're going to move into the bar after the slack's been dealt with. Dan does it a ton with bench press, where the bar is already suspended somewhere and you kind of explode into the bar and move it up. So those would be some scenarios of dealing with slack.
Last thing I got for you guys, and then if you want to throw anything else in here that we maybe didn't cover. Dan, I think you've kind of covered what you do with your football teams in a weight room. People could have ideas there or ask questions for our next episode. Chris, if you're in a weight room, and let's just say you're with a football team, just to make it as easy as possible here, you're choosing, you have 25 racks, 50-person team, you got all the equipment you need. Yeah.
What level of football?
High school.
High school.
Yeah. You have straight bars, you have safety squat bars, you got all the boxes, you have all the tools that you could possibly have at, a weight rack station platform. What single leg exercises are you choosing to use there? Are you doing reverse lunges? Are you doing step ups? Are you doing split squats? Or is the back
all those
squat
are
part
good.
of that? Okay.
All those are nice choices. I like step ups. I like split squats. I'm not too much of a fan of reverse lunges, just because you don't always know where your foot's going to go. But again, I've got 100 kids in there I'm trying to get people through. Those are good, simple movements that I really like. I really like step ups. And then you can do, if you've got pins and you've got safety squat bars, you can do a single leg quarter squat. I really like quarter squats. Single leg, with the Quantum I have, you're in the Smith machines. So that's already there. Those are some good choices.
Wonderful. That'll be good. So then for the haters that say you never give anything practical, we just laid out the recipe and the formula to be a track star in Illinois. So hopefully they take you up on it. All right, fellas, that is to squat or not to squat. Any other kind of thoughts or last minute ideas here? Maybe something we didn't cover?
No, we'll cover all that stuff at TFC.
TFC 2025. Where's my?
Awesome. Yeah, there you go. That'll be the closing, or maybe the opening thumbnail, right? Really strong position there.
No pun intended. That's good.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a good one. I'll edit that part out. I definitely intended that.
Well, Chris, thank you. You do such a great job. I think Mark Hoover said you are the best podcast host he's ever heard, and I agree.
Thank you, Mark. I have definitely put my time in listening. Put it that way. I've gotten my listening reps, so I know what I like and I don't like, but it's easy with you guys. And I have
Thanks.
attended plenty of TFCs in Chicago, Illinois to hear from you guys. So it's a good rapport. All right, let me read this just so we all seem official here. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Fast Lane. Episodes are available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please share this episode and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. Reach out to us. You may message me on X or Instagram at Coach Chris Kerr if you have any questions from this episode. Kind of is what it is. I don't know if questions will make it to Chris and Dan. So at Coach Chris Kerr, X or Instagram, or if you have any follow-up from previous episodes that you would like answered in the future. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.